Hello, and welcome to Wizardry.
Hey, thanks for joining me. I'm sorry it took me so long to get this next video out. Last month, on June 16th, it was my birthday, and I was hoping for the month of June that I would hit 400 subscribers. I missed the mark. But I still really want to thank everyone who liked, shared, subscribed, commented. It means a lot, and it keeps me going knowing that people are out there enjoying the videos.
I did get my very first piece of fan art from my future daughter-in-law, Kalia Williams. She did a hell of a good job as my Father's Day / birthday present. Thank you very much.
This video is another Gaslands conversion, the first of four, the 4-car team that I'm going to make, and I really hope you enjoy it.
And so here are the vehicles I chose for the team. Totally dismantling the vehicles is not always a necessary part of the process, but the conversions that I have in mind for these four does require me to completely disassemble them. As far as difficulty in this part of the process and in conversions overall, different manufacturers assemble their cars in different ways, so your miles may vary. I use acetone to strip my cars, leaving me with a clean bare metal in a matter of minutes, if not seconds. Acetone is very strong though and will damage tons of materials. This truck, for example, was hit with acetone and immediately rinsed off to prove this point and to make him look a bit gnarly. You can even see the scratches from the toothbrush bristles. This can be used to your advantage, and I plan to explore this further in another video. This is the dude I decided to start on. A streamlined tank with a roof-mounted machine gun, rocket launchers, armored plates, a cool exhaust, and an extra axle. My first step in this vehicle's modification was to trim the rear end to accommodate another axle. This was going to require me to stretch the car. I was hoping at this point to keep as much material on the rear end of the car as I could to have a point of contact with the chassis. I did, however, remove the clips on the front and rear, knowing the front at least wasn't going to be needed for the chassis that I had selected. The chassis that I had settled on were actually one from a previous build and another from a completely different vehicle. I decided on them because they had matching rims and tires. If the body was to fit on them, a lot of modifications were in order. A quick test fit and it was on to splicing the two chassis together. I started with the easier of the two, the plastic. My idea was fastening it to the metal frame to get my stretch. This left me with minimal modifications that I needed to do to the metal frame. A tip for beginners of this metal conducts a lot of heat when you're cutting it. A glove or a glass of water nearby to dip your piece in to cool it off quickly is advisable while cutting. And now the splicing could begin. I drilled a pilot hole through the plastic. Then, after gluing it solidly, I used my Nightmare Landscapes UV resin to make a rivet of sorts to reinforce the union of the two pieces. After the length of the new and improved chassis had been established, I began the next round of modifications to the body of the vehicle, which included lengthening the rear wheel wells and widening the slots in the rear that I had made. Another test fit, and then I started to work on the internal supports to maximize the number and size of my contact points that I could mount the body to. I found that dense paperboard works well for this. It is easy to cut to size and manipulate to get in a tight fit. It soaks up liquid superglue greedily to form a plasticine type material and can be stacked upon itself to build volume. Small gaps are easily filled as well, helping to add surface area in spots where there are no or very little anchor points to adhere to. Foam core is another versatile material that can be used in one of these builds. I chose it to lengthen the body past the second set of axles. It has a lot of the same characteristics of the paperboard, and if it is needed to be slimmer in profile, it is easily flattened with your fingers to conform to the size and shape that you desire. I don't think it can be mentioned enough that being resourceful and improvising when building these modifications is key, especially when the bodywork that will not be seen is concerned. Every little scrap that you cut off or that is left over has the potential of being a structural component, or maybe even a key feature on the vehicle in the end. The builds are, for the most part, a representation of some maniacal post-apocalyptic murder machine slapped together to decimate an opposing madman or woman. With the majority of the chassis work complete, I needed to establish that the vehicle had a protective roll cage and bars to help keep projectiles and assailants away from the driver and crew. I accomplished this with a very thin armature wire and a scrap of window screen. Joe at Nightmare Landscapes has hooked me up with a ton of sablebadger's accessories off of Thingiverse. Armor plating, tires, rims, weapons, the list goes on and on. Thingiverse is a tremendous resource for the items necessary for these builds and conversions. Here I'm filling the tires with epoxy and then gluing them directly onto the frame. My camera shut off during my trimming of these armored plates I'm installing, but I figure that's a pretty straightforward process. Using baking soda to cure the superglue doesn't end up with an ultra clean result, but does represent a weld line really well. After installing a rear spoiler, I added a base for the rocket launchers to mount to. Before attaching the armored plating, I used a file to roughen the surface so the glue would have a better grip. I had a lot of gaps between my armor plating and in the wheel wells, so it was back to the foam core to add filler into these areas. I did this not only for a completed look, but also for more surface area during the gluing process. I was finally at the point where I could add the pipes, rocket launcher, and the rooftop machine gun. I covered the foam core before priming with a glue, paint, Mod Podge mix. Then with this beast primed, I broke out my Nightmare Landscapes paints. I chose purple, blue, and black for the color scheme, darkening down the purple quite a bit and the blue a bit as well. When it came to painting the massive blades on the front and the rear of the vehicle, the exhaust pipes on the side, and the top weaponry and rims, I started them all with a base coat of silver. With those tasks completed, I then moved on to the final assembly of my new weaponized creation. I used a generous amount of gel glue in all the areas of contact I had established during the construction phase to make sure that this beast holds together well during the heat of battle. This vehicle being a weaponized killing machine running in hardcore competition, scratches, scrapes, dings, and road grime would be expected. And that's what I did in final preparation, with some washes and some highlights. Adding these little details are always very rewarding, and it brings out the full character of the vehicle, whether it be a mud-covered rust bucket, or, as in the case of this, a sleeker, more well-kept beast of war. Every little detail adds to the story of where it's been and what it's been through. And so we come to the end of another build and another video. I have some fun projects planned, and as I said, I hope to be back a lot sooner. I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe picked up an idea or two or a new trick or technique you can use. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. It's all appreciated. And as always, I'm Wes, and this is Wizardry.